You're very welcome back to the final stage of Giro d'Italia 2013 as the riders make their way to Brescia. A total of 206 kilometres for them today, but not too serious at the moment. The pace has picked up in the last little while. It's been controlled at the moment on the front by the race leader Vincenzo Nibali, his Astana team. And the peloton is as one. We've had a little bit of activity during the day. It was all kicked off a little while ago by Steve Cummings of BMC. He was away for a while before he was closed down. Then a few minutes before we came on air, we had the two riders from Vacansoleil, Maurits Lammertink and Rob Ruik. Those two riders decided to try their luck, but they weren't out front for very long. So it is a steady tempo that has been set on the front, and it's not that easy for any of the riders to establish an advantage. Vincenzo Nibali certainly looking forward to today's stage. Yeah, today is certainly another long and tough stage, so we'll see. We'll try to start the stage more quietly, but in the end there will be a real race, and Cavendish will likely try to make a sprint finish in order to claim back the red jersey. That red jersey competition, as I mentioned before the break, is now within the grasp of Mark Cavendish. He's now within 3 points of Vincenzo Nibali, who'd moved ahead as a result of the finish to yesterday's stage. Luca Paolini has the deep section rims on. He clearly means business today. He's in the cars at the moment, working his way back up. Paolini with a stage victory to his name in this year's race, and also 4 days in pink. It's been a fine Giro d'Italia for the 36-year-old. And yeah, just to confirm that first intermediate sprint at 68.6 kilometres, Mark Cavendish, Giovanni Visconti and Rafael Andriato. Andriato, of course, is well up in the intermediate sprints competition, so he's added 3 points to his total for that. So he's now 5 points clear of Cameron Worth, and looks like he's almost got that one sewn up. But one more opportunity. 20.8 kilometres to go is the final intermediate sprint, and that's when we're into the circuits. 7 laps of a 4.2 kilometre circuit. It'll pretty much be a crit for these riders. 168 riders signed on this morning. We lost Greg Abol yesterday, of course. So a total of 39 riders have retired from this year's Giro d'Italia. 207 set off from Naples 3 weeks ago. Unfortunate for Greg Abol to make it all the way to the penultimate day. But this race is relentless, and even the very, very best professionals in the world find it difficult to get through it all. And the Astana team, not just natty pink bar tape, but they've also got pink mitts to go with them, and Vincenzo Nibali has got some pink shorts to go with that pink jersey, and a pink helmet as well. So he's all pinked up, although hasn't got a special bike. He's staying with that blue and white Specialized S-Works. Who can challenge Mark Cavendish today? Well, Elia Viviani fancies his chances. He says, well, this stage will be like in Napoli. This stage is the final stage. In Napoli it was the opening one. I was very close in Napoli, and I will try my luck again today. Cavendish managed to finish the Giro, although in Napoli it seemed he could leave the race after 10 days, but he's still here, and there will be certainly a sprint finish. And that's sure that a win over Cavendish would be more prestigious, so I will try to beat him and get the victory. So Elia Viviani half sounds like he was hoping that Mark Cavendish might have left early, but then, as he says himself, if he gets the win ahead of Cavendish, it'll have more value.
Yes, well, it always will have value if you get ahead of Cavendish in a big one sprint. There's always huge value in it, but you know, talking about the opening stage, we must remember, you know, there was the crash there, and there was a little bit of a problem for Cavendish. When you look at the more sprints further into the race, Cavendish seemed to be, you know, more dominant and in control very much in big one sprints. Today again, it'll be interesting to see if you can see Viviani challenge him really, but it's difficult to see when you know, look at the 4 stages that he's won this race. But you know, there's no guarantee in sprinting, because positioning and all of that, you can get boxed in, and the best of riders can get a little bit boxing in the final kilometre, and that's where Viviani will be hoping that he get a real good run at it, and the better sprinters that they get a little bit messed up, as they say, and but otherwise it's going to be difficult for anyone to get over Cavendish. I suppose that the interesting thing is with Omega Pharma Quick-Step, Gerstegen is not here, he's just final lead-out pilot, and that will change the situation a little bit, and it will be interesting to see who they will put up there from Quick-Step in the very final, the last man to take Cavendish to that point of 150 metres, 180 metres before the finish, where he will take it up himself.
Who do we think? Maybe Kaisa?
Yes, it would look like Case. He's a good track rider, and the track riders are very good bike handlers. They can hold position up there very well. He's getting through the race quite well, and today's stage, a flat stage, everybody will come in. They won't be really at the suffering trying to get over climbs, and that's something we've seen in this race, where Quick-Step has been trying to control and then to get over the little climbs before the finish. We had that a number of times. Today it's pan flat on a circuit, very much like Belgium races where you're going around in a circuit. They do that all the time in every race in Belgium anyway, so they will feel comfortable on the final circuit, the Omega Quick-Step guys, the Belgian guys especially.
Saw Luca Paolini making his way back in there. He's got his skin suit on, the deep section rims. He's got a good turn of pace, but wouldn't by any means be described as an established bunch sprinter. So do you think that we're going to see lots of guys who might just try their luck because it's the last stage?
Well, I think they will be just hovering there and waiting, and in the final, if there's an opportunity to steal a march, and that's what Paolini will be thinking of, because in the final sprint, if he waits against the better sprinters, and there's a lot of them much better sprinters than him in here, and with experience as well, he'll be just waiting around there, and if there's a little bit of a problem, well then he would try and go for a longer one, but again, difficult to see Paolini getting up in the top 5 today, because he hasn't got that real turn of speed in the final with a big bunch sprint. Small group, he's very good at that, and that's not going to happen, I don't think, today, that a small group will manage to steal away in the final laps.
Well, that's Julian Vermont, an important part of Mark Cavendish's support team at Omega Pharma Quick-Step, just moving over to the right hand side to take the opportunity for a quick break. Pim Lichtart at the back in the breaks in the first week. It's been quite enough time for Vacansoleil since then. Obviously got a little bit of an issue, and he's taking a break at the back. We're going to take a break as well. We'll be back to you very shortly. You're very welcome back to the final stage of Giro d'Italia. 3 weeks, and this is the conclusion as they wind their way within the last 25 miles. 40 and a bit kilometres to go to Brescia. And there are a total of 7 by 4.2 kilometre circuits to be completed for the riders. And that's going to be the meaty end of this stage. That's the business end, where Omega Pharma Quick-Steps, as we see them massed on the left-hand side. Well, one of the riders on the left-hand side, Movistar's massed behind them. They will try to get organised for Mark Cavendish to see can they place him up there for a 5th win in this race. Meanwhile, the pace is being set by the Astana team on the front. 4.2 kilometre circuit, and there are quite a few twists and turns. There are quite a few 90-degree turns in that, so plenty of opportunity for danger for all of the riders out there, not least Vincenzo Nibali. So his Astana team will be ever vigilant and watchful and try and keep him out of trouble. It's Brian Bulgak of the Lotto Belisol team up the road on the first day, within the first few road stages. He was up for a long while. It's a parade of sorts for Vincenzo Nibali. He still has to ride it, and he still has to stay safe right the way to the conclusion, but he has dominated the race, and to all intents and purposes he is already the victor of Giro d'Italia 2013, and well deserved it is indeed. Let's go through some of the other classifications. Points classification has been attracting a lot of our attention in the last few days, as you might expect. Mark Cavendish closing up on Vincenzo Nibali. And Nibali, in his comments before, and we saw the interview just before we went to break, doesn't seem too concerned about it. It's for Cavendish to take it, and he's not able to, not interested really in contesting it. He has got the pink jersey, and that's enough for him, but Cavendish still has to go out there and win it. Filippo Pozzato hasn't really been all that prominent throughout the race. Except perhaps back in the cars or discussing things with race directors, etc. The mountains competition has already been won as well by Stefano Perazzi. 82 points against 45 for Vincenzo Nibali. So Perazzi just has to make it through to the finish to secure that. And he has given us plenty of entertainment, as I've said, over the last few days. That was led initially by Giovanni Visconti, who held the lead for quite a while, and then Perazzi took it over. And it suited him really, because he was so active in trying to get into breaks and get up the road. And he managed to secure the points he needed. The young rider competition has also been, to all intents and purposes, secured by Carlos Betancourt, 41 seconds ahead of Rafael Maica, and that has been, for me, perhaps the most engaging element of this year's Giro d'Italia, where Vincenzo Nibali has been, you know, just exciting in what he's done, and wonderful and awesome and amazing. It hasn't, I suppose, been all that exciting, the scrap with the other general classification contenders, but the battle for this young rider competition has kept us on the edge of our seat at the end of each day. We see Steve Cummings working his way to the front for BMC on the right hand side of your screen there. So Carlos Betancourt 41 seconds to the good ahead of Rafael Maica, and Wilco Kelderman third for the Blanco team, as he has been for quite a while. He did get to wear the white jersey for a little while, but it's been all about Betancourt and Maica. Both those riders, Sean, have really enhanced their reputation with their performances in this race, haven't they?
Yes, well, Maica, he has been really good in this race, considering, you know, the difficult terrain. Although we lost some of the real difficult mountain stages, still he put up a big battle, and you know, we see him in the time trial, the mountain time trial, which was, you know, going to be always difficult for him. He's a good climber, but nothing like Betancourt, who's a pure climber and a small little lightweight guy, so advantage there. And yesterday again in the final climb he did suffer a lot, and it was Betancourt who won the battle, but it was certainly a battle over the last number of days, and it's nice to see that, because sometimes you can get the young jersey classmen, the guys leading by 5 or 6 minutes from the second man in the overall classification of the young classmen, and it's game over a week before the race finish. It was changing all the time. We could see there was a big battle between them, so that's good to see. Perazzi, of course, for the mountain jersey, he always gives entertainment, and he's had a brilliant Giro, and he's coming away with a jersey this time, because we've seen him in the past where he goes in the attack any time, any place, uphill, downhill, and not winning anything, and to come away with the mountain jersey overall winner, it's great to see him, because, you know, he makes the race exciting, and in the climbs he's, you know, he's such a special guy, the way he climbs, and then he slows down, and he's made it really interesting when he's in the breakaways. And I think there's a lot of riders, you know, that don't really like him, because when you get into a breakaway with him, he is the killer of a breakaway a lot of the time, with his sudden accelerations, then slowing down, and a lot of riders cannot cope with that.
Yeah, he's about as steady as Charlie Sheen when he's in a breakaway. Tiralongo has been suffering with sore knee in the last few days, but in the last few weeks indeed, but still able to do his work, grinding away at the front, riding a big gear, and skipping across a little bit of mountain biking there. One of the Cannondale riders. A couple of tweets in at DQ Sport, remember, is the Twitter handle. Ollie Butterwick says Trenta will lead out Cav, in my opinion. I certainly wouldn't argue against that. Delta Bravo wants to know, when is the race switch from fun run to serious race today? These last days are always a bit confusing as to when it's game on. As soon as I think we get to the laps, those 7 by 4.2 kilometre laps, you'll see it really ramp up, and you'll see riders will try their luck as well. Not everybody is going to have something to offer in the final sprint, and they know that well, they have a day off tomorrow, and this is the final roll of the dice, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see some of the teams that haven't really produced as they would have wished try something as they get closer and closer to the finish. But yeah, those 7 by 4.2 kilometre laps are the pizza handed out from the car. What's the best food Sean has eaten during a stage? Pizza would be good, wouldn't it?
Well, On the flat stage, you probably get away with having a bit of pizza, but on the mountain stages, it would be the thing to have out on the road. But we can see there, one of the team directors, was it from Bardinani team, that he had a box, boxes, and they must have come through an area where there was a big bike supporter who was, a pizza restaurant, or maybe some of the people in the team as well, possibly was there. Their resto, so we see him that he seemed to have a stock up for every team car following the rest.
Be a great boost of morale for the riders too. Just those little treats every now and again after all the denial and all the efforts that they've made. So the riders spread wide across the road as now they think about getting involved a little bit. Remember, we've got that final intermediate sprint in 15 kilometers time, but mostly I think really the Sky team, the BMC team, Saxo Tinkov on the right hand side, Radio Shack were assembling on the left, and I think it's about staying out of trouble, and the crowds are out in force, and this is great to see. Brescia has a big history in cycling, and with the laps, and I love to see circuit finishes, and they are very popular. It's great to see for the spectators. Now, Cadel Evans, been a little bit disappointing for him, not the Giro that he would have liked, but still not bad.
Test of everything this Giro, the weather conditions, really hard course, and always really hard racing that really never let up. We had a few moments where you could relax for a moment, but in 80 hours of racing, really, you can only count the minutes that where the racing let up, and so yeah. Intense, hard 3 weeks, and yeah, for the travel and conditions and everything, really hard. And I really came here with minimal preparation, and to be in third place. Of course, I'd rather be in second. I'd even prefer to be in first. But yeah, if you knew how little I had in my legs when I started, it's actually a really good result.
So Cadel Evans is stoic and able to take something out of this, and he will reassemble his thoughts and his hopes and ambitions ahead of the Tour de France in July. Cadel Evans, of course, it emerged after yesterday's stage that he had a mechanical issue yesterday, Sean. We did see him kind of grinding up the hill in the snow towards the end.
Yes, and he wasn't the only one grinding, but he did have a problem with his gears. They wouldn't function. He couldn't get on, I suppose, the lowest gear, which you definitely need with the steep gradient, the cold conditions when you really get cold. It's then when you need a lighter gear again, and he wasn't able to get that. But Cadel Evans, he always looks like he is struggling and fighting to get up the climbs. It didn't look like the gear was too high yesterday, but he did say that it wasn't functioning well, and I presume it's with the snow, and maybe someone got caught in the rear. I've seen that before out training myself, where the gears do not function, and the conditions, as we heard in the interview with Nibali, he said it was colder than any other times yesterday in the final, so it's not surprising that they were not working for some of the riders.
As we make our way in the hills around Brescia. Up to the castle. And heading for the city centre very shortly to head into those final series of laps. Brescia's Lombardy's second city by population. Almost 1.5 million people live in and around the Brescia area, and very important economically, of course, known to the Romans as Brixia. This is the centre of the Italian armaments industry. And of course, Brescia was famous as the home of the Mille Miglia motor race. Most extraordinary 1,000-mile car race through towns and villages at upwards of 160 miles an hour. And only right and proper that the first sight that the spectators get of the peloton, it's the Astana team at the front, and Vincenzo Nibali decked out in pink. And interesting as well that we heard from him, and he said this was something for all of Italy to celebrate, as the Shark of Messina, obviously wonderful for people in the southern part of Italy who don't have as many cycling heroes, and this is a real celebration for all of Italy. Celebration continues. They're in Brescia, getting to the circuits. Join us for the next part after these. You're very welcome back to the final stage of the Giro d'Italia as the peloton receives the plaudits of the crowds in Brescia on the outskirts of this hugely popular cycling city. And on the front of the group is Paolo Tirolongo of the Astana team. He leads the Astana squad of Vincenzo Nibali. Tirolongo, who's been suffering with a knee injury, he's 36 years of age now, and he has the honour of leading the peloton into the final city. Could well be an opportunity for him to say goodbye to the crowd, or will he have further opportunities in Giro d'Italia? Certainly Paolo Tirolongo, after all the work that he's done for Vincenzo Nibali, deserves this little moment at the front of the peloton.
Well, he certainly deserves his time at the front, because he is one of the real good domestics as well in the mountain stages. Although in this Giro we haven't seen him as much as we would expect him because of the crash. He had a knee problem, and I think he suffered a lot, so he's happy to get here. And as you say, you know, at the age, at the time in his career, it could be the last time he'd be leading the final stage of town.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the last time for this man, Stefano Garzelli. At 39 years of age, the oldest man in the bike race, and he is on the front. We divert our attention a little bit for a wheel change at Euskaltel, but Garzelli, I was going to tell you, yeah, Sanchez, of course, with the gold shoes, the 2008 Olympic road race winner. Slipped a little bit in general classification yesterday. It's been a very tough Giro d'Italia for himself and all at Euskaltel. Garzelli, winner of the 2000 Giro d'Italia, winner of 7 stages in the race, and this is his final occasion, so peloton offering him that opportunity to at least present himself to the crowd on the front. And it's the sort of thing that makes cycling great. I think it's part of the tradition, and the little ceremonies that are attached to it are a large part of why cycling is still as popular as it is. And Garzelli gets this opportunity in his final season in the Giro d'Italia, so that's it's wonderful for him that he's able to say goodbye in this way in front of the big crowd.
A magnificent show of respect to Stefano.
So now we've reached the finish line, the first of 7 circuits. And that's the finish line for Mark Cavendish to chase for, and the rest of the sprinters. Elia Viviani we talked about a little bit earlier, and there are plenty of other sprinters that will fancy their chances. Stefano Garzelli won't be one of them. Starting to look a little bit embarrassed, actually. He's looking behind as if to say, you can come and get me now.
And maybe not the Giro he would have liked. Preferred to get a bit more out of it. In general classification, you can see he's in 108th position, 2 hours 52 minutes and 34 seconds down. But I don't think he ever had any intentions of doing something in general classification. But a stage victory, I think he would have liked to get that in his final throw of the dice. But we did see him a number of times, but never really in the big action, never really looking in the breakaway that could go to the finish, and not maybe the Giro that he was hoping to get. A stage victory would have been a super ending for him.
Tweets coming in. Joseph Stevenson wants to know, will Nibali go to the Tour de France? He's got great form and he doesn't look fatigued, so I think it's a feasible possibility. Well, it's not in his programme, Vuelta. It's all about the Vuelta. We have talked about this in the last few days. Stefano Garzelli definitely won't be going to Tour de France. He says goodbye to bike racing at the end of this season.
To the player, maybe.
To what?
To the seafront he'll be going to.
yeah, he's going to the Sun Lounger.
Yes, I'm talking about Galzelli there at 2:52 down the general classification. You know, the last men in general classification are much further down, 4 hours 28:36 for the last man in general classification. So if it had been a nice Giro, there was a lot of sunny conditions, those guys would have a much better tan than Vincent Nibali.
yeah, they would have been out there for a lot longer. Yeah, 4 hours and 28 minutes more. It's like they did an entire extra day of cycling. Of course, Davide Apollonio is the final man. He is the Maglia Nera, although they don't give them a black jersey anymore. Part of the reason they don't give them a black jersey anymore is because riders used to compete for it, and back in the 60s they used to hide in cafes and hide in bushes and things like that to try and hoodwink their rivals for that final place on general classification.
Yes, it was a big thing in the Tour of France, the last man in general classification that, you know, finished the race for the appearance events after the Tour of France. It would be in big demand because, you know, finishing Lantern Rouge, as they call it in France.
Yeah, I mean, you can make money. It's as simple as that, and that's what happened in the 50s and 60s in Giro d'Italia, same routine. Of course, the great art to it was to hoodwink your rivals, but manage to finish inside the time limit as well. It was easier said than done. Now it looks as if Omega Pharma Quickstep have decided to move towards the front. I had another question there. Is it true there may be steel bikes back on the tours next year? Well, I haven't heard that. Although I do know the Madison Cycles team. It's a British Continental registered outfit run by Roger Hammond. I know they run on steel bikes, and that is very unusual. But certainly steel does seem to be gaining in popularity. I know you occasionally use a steel bike, don't you, Sean, these days?
Yes, well, I have used a steel bike and in the past, and there's still a lot of them out there, and you know, a lot of bike builders still, you know, build with the steel. The specialised builders who build, you know, to measure. So it would be interesting to see. There is a little talk about that, but again, you know, talking about the steel back in the Tour, are we talking about the club Tour now? Are we talking about the Tour of France, the Tour of Italy? I think
it seems a little unlikely.
It's highly unlikely. It will be certainly a number of years, but it's possible in the next 3, 4, 5 years we could see them making a bit of a comeback.
So Scaltello lined out at the back.
Changing the tactic. They were lined out the front yesterday, but
it didn't work, did it?
Very little gain.
It was a disastrous day really for Euskaltel. They went to the front, drilled it, and that put paid to. And now the attacks are coming, so we've got ourselves a bike race. The parade is over. Neutralised section has been officially finished. Officially and unofficially, and it's Androni Giocattoli on the front. Saw a stat actually, and I wish I could remember who had tweeted it because it was an absolute doozy, that we've had something like 3,400 kilometres of Giro d'Italia, or was it 3,200 kilometres, and Androni Giocattoli have been up the front in breakaways for 1,500 kilometres of that. Interesting to see it's Mark Cavendish that's decided to chase this one down. Seems a little annoyed about this. He said, no, nobody goes until we've had the final intermediate sprint. So Mark Cavendish, and that intermediate sprint, according to my stats, is supposed to happen with 20.8 kilometres to go, and Cavendish is going for it. He's decided to go out front. So, and we've got that has to be Andriato of the Vini Fantini team has decided to skip across to it. So we could have the slightly bizarre situation, unless that's where they gave the intermediate sprint. It must be that the intermediate sprint has been awarded there, because there's no way that Mark Cavendish would be striking out for glory. So our road book a little bit awry once more. There were changes, of course, made to the route as a result of the fact that there are elections in the Lombardy region, and they've had to divert around villages. So it was supposed to be 197 kilometres, and they extended to 206. But still, having got the old abacus out, it looked like the final intermediate sprint was due to be at 20.8 kilometres to go. Haven't got any confirmation that was the intermediate sprint.
Yes, and in both in the original route book that we at the start of the race, and also the revised route today, it was giving that. So surprising to see that it is that they've been changed, because the recent information this morning seemed to be it was much later.
Well, that looked like it was the sprint anyway, and Mark Cavendish certainly very active, and still the attacks are coming on. We're going to take another opportunity for a quick break. Well, we're racing now in the final stage of Giro d'Italia from Riese Pio Decimo to Brescia, 197 kilometres. It was supposed to be 206 kilometres in total. 7 by 4.2 kilometre finishing circuits for the riders, and we're on those finishing circuits in Brescia now, and they're starting to race. And out front has Giro Ermetti has managed to extricate himself from the peloton, and that is a very, very difficult left-hander they've just gone round, because just before we came back, I wonder will we get a replay of it, Ermetti almost crashed into the barrier, pulled his left foot out, and just managed to steady himself and stay upright. But having said that, he's not managing to open up much of a gap on the peloton. The Omega Pharma Quick-Step squad are all over this one, and they're hunting down Giro Ermetti of Androni Giocattoli, Venezuela. Has a little look over his shoulder and sees that ominous sight of the Omega Pharma Quick-Steps chasing him down, so he knows it's futile. He's not going to be given any sort of an opportunity to build an advantage, but at least he's managed to get his name on race radio, make it into the bulletins, and show the jersey at the front on live television. There's the indication that it's not a parade, it's not a tour now. A little bit of bunching at the front as the Omega Pharma's Quick-Step team stall a little bit, having dragged Ermetti back, but at the back they're still swinging around. Getting tweets in that Sean's team has taken another victory, and on Post Ross it's Sam Bennett that has led the field in the final stage for the Unpost Sean Kelly team. So congratulations to Sean. It's another victory in the race. That's 3 stage wins, I think. And now pushing hard. Let's run the rule over the contenders. It's all about Cavendish, really, what he can or can't do. Can he go for a 5th stage win, and who can challenge him? I mean, Elia Viviani, we saw an interview with him, and Cavendish seems quite excitable at the moment, doesn't he? Cavendish hunted down Ermetti and then sprinted for the line, but still we haven't had confirmation that that was the intermediate sprint. We were given to understand that that was coming with 20.8 kilometres to go. Then originally it was supposed to be 16.8 or 16.6. Then it was going to be 1 lap earlier, and Cavendish looks quite frustrated, and I wonder if Cavendish has just discovered that his sprint was in vain that time.
Well, I'm not sure. I think it looks like the sprint is a bit further out, and we did see Cavendish going after the guy, but Ermetti, and talking, but he wanted to continue for some reason. But the quick steps are, keeping the pace quite high here. It looks like that the sprint is still coming up. We can see Visconti as well, very much up there, and he was in the 4th sprint of the day as well, going for the place, the top 3 places. So I think they still have to come round and go for the sprint, and it's possibly be at the 16.6 kilo mark. So it's really the next time we will see real quick if it is on that lap. A little bit of confusion, I think, for everybody there. In the finest traditions of Italian road racing, and in fairness to Mark Cavendish, he wouldn't be the first person that sprinted for the line a lap early in a crit. Although his body language, he's hopping the bike up and down, and he's definitely pumped in a big way. A little bit frustrated on the back of the field. Well, what a tough Giro d'Italia it's been for Française de Jeu. Laurent Pichon, who we saw, I think he crashed on the first day, didn't he? But he's recovered, he's made it through to finish the race, and 4 of his teammates haven't, so just 5 Française de Jeu make it to the line. Just 3 teams, by my reckoning, have brought their full complement of 9 riders all the way to Brescia. It's the Cannondale Pro Cycling squad of Elia Viviani, the Lotto Belisol squad, who can celebrate that stage victory for Adam Hansen, which has helped to make it a successful Giro for them, and the Movistar squad, who've been absolutely flying, of course. 4 stage wins. Benia Dinchausti in 8th position overall, and indeed Dinchausti has worn pink as well. So of the 3 squads mentioned, Cannondale still have work to do. Damiano Caruso is their best placed rider in 19th position overall. He did get
third position in the time trial a few days ago, but well, that's about the best of it really. Viviani hasn't delivered the stage win that they would so dearly like. So a little bit of a stall in the bunch. But these tight and twisting technical streets of Brescia are really going to make it demanding for a team to control it, make it demanding for riders to make their way through, make them likely to take one or two extra chances. And it's up to Omega Pharma Quickstep, and I suppose, Sean, with this, it's such a tight and technical circuit that being on the front is really the only place to be. Yes,
it's the safest place to be. We can see there, that section where they're going through, the cobble sections, a lot of the pavings as well. It can be quite dangerous in the final when you're pushing on. So up front is the place to be. Thank God it's dry weather here today, because if we had the wet conditions, well, then it would be treacherous going around those streets. Not only because of the surface, but also the streets could be a little bit oily from buses and cars. So the dry conditions will make it safer. But still, we could see in the final there could be problems here, because it is very technical and quite narrow as well. But the narrow part, if a team can keep it going really fast on the front, line the bunch out, well, then that will eliminate that problem a bit. But still, I'd be concerned in the final that we could see problems into the final 2 kilometres.
Brescia's played host to a total of 13 Giro d'Italia stage finishes. It was actually the Gran Partenza. It was the start of the Giro back in 1983, but the prologue in Piazza della Loggia had to be cancelled for reasons of public order. And its province of Brescia has fine cycling culture. Lots of great record riders in every decade. Fausto Bertoglio, Roberto Visentini, those riders winners of the 1975 and 1986 editions of the Giro d'Italia respectively. Michele Dancelli won 11 stages in the Giro and also took a stage victory in the 1969 Tour de France. Davide Boifava, Guido Bontempi, and of course Mattia Gavazzi, who, the sprinter for Androni Giocattoli, would be so disappointed not to have made it. Gavazzi was thrown off the race for hanging on to his team car in the mountains. So now Cavendish hits the front, so this is the intermediate sprint. So after all that confusion, for us, for him, for everyone, Mark Cavendish makes it across the line just ahead of a couple of movie star riders. I suspect that Visconti was the first of those two. So Mark Cavendish has now moved into the lead of the red points jersey competition. So he's leading that jersey competition because Vincenzo Nibali can't wear 2 jerseys, and he has a little look over his shoulder and he sees that he's safely there. So Mark Cavendish now has added another 8 points to his total. He's now on 133 against the 128. So he's a 5-point lead in the competition ahead of Vincenzo Nibali. So that has rendered the sprint academic in terms, the final sprint, in terms of the points competition. Won't stop him from contending it though.
16 kilometres now remaining on today's stage as the riders line up behind the team.
So relief for Mark Cavendish, and now he can focus on the job in hand without thinking about sort of staying safe or just making sure that he gets better than 5th place in the final sprint. In fact, it wouldn't even need to have been as good as that. But now he can just focus on the sprint win. Yes, well done to Mark Cavendish.
And it takes a nervousness out as well, because when you're in the sprint you have to take risk to stay up there in the top 10-15 riders in the final. It is going to be hectic here today, and there's always the concern that they'd come down in a crash and not get any points at all. So now we can go full on for the stage victory and not be worried if something does happen. Well, that's bike racing, it happens. He's had secured the points classification, the red jersey in this Giro.
Now this confirmation, 5-point lead for Mark Cavendish heading to the final sprint finish of this year's race, ahead of Vincenzo Nibali and Cadel Evans, the only sprinter really anywhere in contention. The next The next sprinter in contention in the point standings is Elia Viviani in 8th position. Pretty much all general classification contenders. Mark Cavendish ahead of Vincenzo Nibali, Cadel Evans, Carlos Betancourt, Rigoberto Urán, Sant'Ambrosio, and that just shows what a tough competition this is to win for a sprinter. And Mark Cavendish had to be head and shoulders above all of the other sprinters in this race in order to win that, and he's really earned it. And well, due respect to him, it's his full house of Grand Tour points classification jerseys. He won the Tour de France points competition in 2011. He won the Vuelta points competition the year before, and now he's added the Giro. Didn't quite manage to do it in consecutive years, but I think missing out by a point last year is going to make this one all the sweeter. So now inside the final 15 kilometers of the race, as Omega Pharma Quick-Step wind it up again. They've ticked one little box today, but they want to go for the 5th stage win and send Cavendish off to the Tour de France in the best possible shape. It really is the only place to be, right up front here. And the other teams are leaving it up to Omega Pharma Quick-Step to do it. And we've seen this is the pattern in the sprint stages so often in this race. Having the best sprinter, inevitably they have to take the responsibility of setting the pace, but I don't think they'd be too disappointed to have to do it, because well, it's just so much safer up there. Ardiani Valvoli have Sasha Modolo, of course. And what a great race they've had in the breaks so often. Stage win for Enrico Battiglin, who might have fancied his chances as well in this stage today, but unfortunately he crashed out. But Sasha Modolo, who hasn't really managed to produce great form, 126th overall, has managed to make it around the Giro and has one final opportunity to go for it. Fiona Hay wants to know if Taylor Finney's in the race. No, he had to pack it, I'm trying to think, must be at least a week ago now. Saddle sores, I think, was what got to him in the end. So disappointment for Taylor Finney. 39 riders in total retired from the Giro d'Italia. This was no easy race to get out of, to get through, despite the extra race day and the fact that they had to make adjustments to the race routes in the mountains. Plenty of chat going on amongst the Omega Pharma Quick-Steps about exactly how they're going to play this. So lots of communication between them. At the back of the bunch, riders just want to make it through safely and as quickly as possible. So now we've got the Cannondales assembling towards the front, and they're trying to pick up Elia Viviani and trying to set this one up. We see AG2R, they have 2 fast men, and I wonder if that doesn't sometimes affect them. They've got David Apollonio, the aforementioned Maglianero, he's the last man on GC, and Manuel Belletti, of course. Belletti's been sprinting well in this year's Giro and could definitely do something, Sean.
Yes, well, there's a few riders who have been sprinting well, and depending on how you finish the race, if you're getting through the last number of days without suffering big time, well, they all can put up a good sprint here, and it's all about positioning. As we come into that final kilometre, 1200 metres, it does get straight, but before that is very technical, and you have to be very much at the front. And I think we will see a lot of teams trying to take control of the thing in the final 2 kilometres. We see Cannondale here moving up. We can see Radio Shack further down there, and of course, with Honda, a real good lead out man from Isolo. They are going to try and be very much in the top 4 or 5 riders. They need to be up there in that 2 kilometres, 2.5 kilometres to go. The position is going to be so important, because if you start a bit further off there, 12, 15 position down, it's so difficult to move up in the final kilometre. And if you have to move up, unless you have a very good teammate with you, you have to do it yourself, well, then you will pay dearly.
So the Lampre and Pozzata trying to get organised for Roberto Ferrari, and things are getting very busy and very hectic up there as we hit 11.5 to go, coming up to the 10 kilometres to go marker. Viviani, of course, was second to Cavendish on the first stage in Napoli. Nasser Bahani third on that occasion. He had a couple of podium, or at least top 3 finishes on sprints. Bahani, though, has departed the race long since gone. And Nizzolo was second into Carrasco behind Cavendish. So these are the riders that will fancy their chances to put one over Mark Cavendish.
Yes, and with Lamprey, of course, we can see in there they have Roberto Ferrari, who is, very much in the race, and we haven't seen him a lot in the sprints, but sometimes, he comes just suddenly out and produced a great sprint. Last year was a situation as well. He got an opportunity. There was a little bit of a problem in the final corner. He stole the march, and he is a real kamikaze sprinter. If they can keep him up there in the final, well, he could be the one could really push Cavendish today.
Yeah, the last jersey that Mark Cavendish wants to see in the last lap is a Lamprey one, really, is it? Himself and Ferrari have a little bit of history. Riders at the back trying to stay safe. Argos Shimano, of course, have a stage win thanks to John Degenkolb, but Degenkolb's another man that departed the race. Wasn't quite able to hack the pace, or perhaps he felt he needed to save his legs, but he's had a very, very able replacement in the shape of Luka Mezgec.
Yes, very much so, and he's been up there in the stages. I think he had, twice he finished third in the stage, and difficult stages. He is really been impressive in the big one sprints, because before this race, I did not realise that he was so fast, but with Degenkolb left the race into the first week, I think it was, he's really been performing well.
Yeah, Mezgec was third to Visconti and second in that group of the group that didn't include Mark Cavendish when they arrived into Vicenza, but he also got third behind Cavendish and Nizzolo in Carrasco, so he's got a very fast finish, capable of getting over some of the smaller hills as well, and a man for the future. So the Amiga Pharma Quick-Steps getting themselves organised into the final 10 kilometres.
It's Matteo Trentin, the 158, who is just in front of Cavendish. Will that be the final lead out? And it looks like they're preparing that way. We can see the men in the front. Brambilla's pushing on there, and Vermont pulling on the front big time as well. So they are keeping the pace real high, and I think it looks like that it could be Trentin, also a very fast sprinter, of course, but things can change as well, because there will be other teams get involved here. They will just come up and try to take over the lead from Omega Pharma Quick-Step, so it doesn't always work out exactly. You could get pushed around a bit, and that could change. One corner, your lead out man, your final lead out man could get pushed about a bit, and you could find yourself taking another wheel of another teammate.
Luca Paolini shaping up to try and find the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Cavendish with that black helmet, the red jersey, of course. Paolini with the multicoloured, predominantly red helmet with the reduced amount of venting, and Stefano Perazzi, as we have often seen him when the road is flat.
There ain't no hills here.
No. And he's just swinging around at the back, and that's an indication of the pace, and big cracks appearing in the peloton at the back, and riders letting wheels go and riders coming around them to try and close it up. It's pretty hectic indeed as we hit 2 laps to go. So twice 4.2 kilometres for the riders. And look at the pain etched on the faces of the riders at the back. You sort of think this looks pretty comfortable and pretty handy when you see the riders at the front and the power they're able to generate, and the way they're able to look around and jockey for position and try and pick wheels out. And a tactical game of chess at 60 kilometres an hour being played out here, and at the back, riders desperately trying to hang on. So now Golas takes it up for at the front of the peloton for Amiga Pharma Quick-Step.
And we can see a lot of movement here on the front. We did see Ulrika Greenedge there trying to move up with a number of riders. Peter Weening, it seemed to be, who tried to take the front, and it's just going to go faster and faster now as we're on the final lap. and the penultimate lap, sorry, but on the final lap it will be real fast. You have to keep control of the front of this one. That's what Omega Pharma will be really concerned about, that they hold pole position with their team on the final lap of this circuit.
Orica Greenedge trying to get in position as they make their way up. They've got Brett Lancaster, of course. Matthew Harley-Goss has left the race. He also, well, he tried to survive to the end, but he only made it, well, he retired just a few days ago, and he'd been sick for a while as well. So Brett Lancaster has come up with a couple of top 10 finishes for them since Goss, well, since they realised Goss wasn't able to do it. So perhaps Brett Lancaster is able to come up with something for them. One question in why is Mark Cavendish wearing the red jersey? He's wearing it because Vincenzo Nibali was leading the points classification going into this stage, but of course Vincenzo Nibali is wearing the pink jersey of overall race leader, and but he can't wear two jerseys, and that red jersey is sponsored, so it's the next person in the classification that gets to wear it. Radio Shack look to move up on the left hand side. Omega Pharma Quick-Step setting the pace, and the other teams will let them use up their energy as much as possible, but try and benefit from that. And at the same time, there'll be massive jockeying for position in amongst the teams behind them. And just behind Omega Pharma Quick-Step, it's well, it's going to get pretty physical. And for Mark Cavendish, the best that he can hope, as we see Steve Cummings towards the back. Danny Pate too. Those riders have made it around the Giro d'Italia, inside the final 6 kilometres for them. Serge Powell's at the front. Given an opportunity a few days ago to have a go, and Powell's has a little look behind, and that's the experience, isn't it? Just backs off a little bit on the exit of the corner because he knows he'll have a bike length advantage, and there's no point in making his teammates chase just to get back onto his wheel, offering them the maximum shelter that he possibly can.
You can see Mark Cavendish in 6th place there, 5 of his teammates in front of him. You know, it's perfect for the moment, but a lot of riders just hovering here. We can see Cannondale, Orica Greenegg, sorry, also waiting there, and they're going to really hit it in the final. We can see Omega Pharma, when somebody comes up, they up the pace a bit, and we did see Powell's there. He looked around, went into the corner real fast, but out of the corner, just looked around there, allowed your teammates to get back in the wheel and keep the pace real high. Experience counting a lot there, but we can see here also Lamprey hovering there, as we can see, you know, starting to move up here. Pozzato moving up on the outside, and we know, you know, Ferrari is the man. He should be very close to him there also.
Yeah, I don't see him there.
No.
Maybe Pozzato fancies his chances himself. No sign of Ferrari, and in fairness, Ferrari hasn't been sprinting well, so maybe Pipo Pozzato has been given a free rein to have a crack himself today. Oh no, I did see another one. There are 2 Lampreys there, and it's got to be Roberto Ferrari besides Pipo Pozzato.
He's so tiny you cannot see him behind Pozzato.
Well, that's perfect for Ferrari, perfect for the Lamprey team, so they're in amongst it. Got a shot as well of Vincenzo Nibali. He's in the middle of the peloton, and he's got a stand of riders around him, a couple of Sky riders as well, and of course he'll be given plenty of breathing space. Nobody wants to be the man that takes down the leader of the Giro d'Italia. Having said that, these will be nervous moments. He needs to make it to that final 3 kilometres. Any instance that might happen after that, well, he'll be able to get bunch time as long as he can make it to the finish line. Golas on the front as they take the bell. So now just 4.2 kilometres remaining, and the cracks are appearing at the back of the peloton. Riders have been dropped in little groups of 3 and 4. Navradouskas, who's taken a stage victory, has so much to be proud of from this year's Giro d'Italia. He's not going to be involved in this final sprint though. So now Omega Pharma Quick-Step desperate to try and hang on to that position at the front. Katusha moving up, and that's Paolini. Paolini's going to have to do it on his own by the looks of things. And to a certain extent, Sean, it's at the end of 3 weeks. It's not just who's the fastest man, but also how their legs have lasted. 3.5 kilometers to go, and Radio Shack take it up on the front. Garmin are there, of course. Robbie Hunter is their fast man.
Popovic is really pulling on here from Radio Shack on the front with the Garmin in his wheel, and we can see there's a lot of movement here. We can see Lampre Merida also with Pozzato, giving the lead out for Ferrari here. We can see him in the wheel, and it's going to be a big fight now for the final corners. Who's going to be leading in the final 2 kilometers is very important here.
Well, we've seen this pattern so much. Well, it's starting to emerge with the Omega Pharma Quick Steps, that they take it up and then they give up the lead with a few kilometers to go, because the other teams might only have 1 rider or 2 riders. Well, Radio Shack have got an extra man. Of course, Danilo Hondo is the man that will lead out their man Nizzolo, and Popovic has given a big turn there and presented it back to Omega Pharma Quick Step. Mark Cavendish sitting in 3rd place with 2.5 kilometers left in this race. Perhaps that's a little bit closer to the front than he might like, but it's such a technical finish that Omega Pharma Quick Step clearly believe that they need to stay right on the front. Vincenzo Nibali looks down, looks like he was grabbing for a gear, but he's well inside the final 3 kilometers of this Giro d'Italia, and our attention once more is diverted towards the front. Omega Pharma Quick Step on the front, and Mark Cavendish has slipped a little bit.
No,
he's there, he's 3rd position, yes.
And Ferrari in his wheel, and Cavendish, and that's where Ferrari wants to be for the moment. So good position for Mark Cavendish.
But look how many Cannondales there are, Sean.
Yes,
3 Cannondale riders,
yes.
And that's an opportunity now. With 2 kilometers to go, Viviani looks in good shape. Bardiani Valvoli are represented up there. Sasha Modolo, their fast man. Mark Cavendish stays safe, as do all the bunch through another turn. And here come the Cannondale in the green on the right hand side. No stage wins from this year's Giro d'Italia. It's been very disappointing, and they didn't manage to, of course Ivan Basso didn't come to the race as a result of medical condition just before the start, and as a result they haven't really had any success in this race. Elia Viviani hopes that he can put one over Mark Cavendish today.
Yeah, and Kaysen leading out with Trentin just in front of Cavendish here, as we can see Cavendish in 3rd position, and they really have to keep the pace high now, because there's a lot of teams waiting just to take up the sprint that bit earlier, and hopefully for Cavendish that his 2 men are still strong enough to hold it into the final kilometre, because they have to take him to that 200-metre mark.
Well, they're dropping off in 1s and 2s at the back of the peloton. That's because Ilio Kaisa, the trackman on the front for Omega Pharma Quick Step, is burying himself to try and hold off, and he moves across to try and stop the Cannondales from coming through, but he can't do that, so Cannondale are going to take this one up. Cavendish has 1 more lead out man. Trentin it is that's going to try and bring Mark Cavendish to the line. Inside the final 500 metres, as Cannondale have got the perfect setup for Elia Viviani, and this is a small crisis moment for Mark Cavendish, but he looks to be in perfect position here behind his lead out man Trentin. Down to 2 for the Cannondales, as it's a match race between Cannondale and Omega Pharma Quick Step. Mark Cavendish on the right hand side ready to unleash. Elia Viviani on the left hand side. Cavendish coming through the middle now and goes for the line. Cavendish jumps for the line. Sasha Modolo goes for Bardiani Valvoli. Who's going to get it? Bardiani Valvoli or Omega Pharma Quick Step? It's Mark Cavendish that takes his 5th victory of the Giro d'Italia. Wonderful success for himself and Omega Pharma Quick Step, and there's nothing that Sasha Modolo, Elia Viviani, Nizzolo, Honda and the rest could do about that, because Mark Cavendish is quite simply the fastest man in the world. 5 stage victories, the points classification, and the perfect conclusion to a wonderful Giro d'Italia for the man from Douglas in the Isle of Man. As the riders come in 1s and 2s and small groups, it's celebration for Omega Pharma Quick Step, celebration too for Vincenzo Nibali, the overall victor of this year's Giro d'Italia. But Mark Cavendish, well, they said that he wouldn't, that he'd probably head off after 10 days. They said too at the start of this race that the Omega Pharma Quick-Step lead-out train just wasn't working. There's confirmation. Cavendish wins from Sasha Modolo. Elia Viviani has to be satisfied with third. Nizzolo hadn't quite got it. Good performance from Mezgec again. Roberto Ferrari, sixth, not quite what he was hoping for. Kenny de Haas of Lotto Belisol there. Belletti, Visconti was sprinting well after all his efforts in the mountains. But the overall victor of the 2013 Giro d'Italia is Vincenzo Nibali of Sicily. It's a home win. It's his second Grand Tour success, and this one will mean so much to him. It's been coming for a while, and really he's been absolutely peerless throughout this 3 weeks of racing around Italy. Took everything that the best cyclists in the World Tour could throw at him, and indeed everything that the weather could throw at him and his colleagues, and at no stage looked under any significant threat. So Nibali will celebrate with his teammates tonight, and so too will Mark Cavendish. Great sprint win and perfectly put together, and bearing in mind that they were missing Gert Stegemans, well, it's a well-oiled machine now. It's really starting to click for them.
Yes, did a good job there, and kept the pace real high when they had to. Allowed some of the other teams to take it up, but not many riders. They never allowed too many riders to get in front of them. We did see when Ulrika Green Edge, I think they had 3 riders they tried to move in front, and Omega Pharma Quick-Step just held control of the front of the bunch. They did allow, one rider maybe at the time. We did see Popovic really pushing on, but that's what you've got to do. Play it safe and just keep 2 or 3 teammates all the time in front of you, and not allow too many riders to get out in front of you. Then it can become a real risky one.
Crosses the line in the Valle Azzurra as the king of the mountains. It was an incredible finish.
It was a perfect lead out from the Cannondale team. They looked like they timed it absolutely perfectly, but well, Cavendish got the jump on Viviani, and well, it looked like Modolo got the jump on the 2 of them, but Cavendish just fast enough on the run to the line. Found that little extra kick, and Modolo can have few complaints. He timed it perfectly, but disappointment for Viviani after all the great work by the Cannondale team.
Yes, and just wasn't fast enough. He was in a real good position, and we could see that they were just fighting. Modolo was the one who really got the jump on Cavendish, but Cavendish looked over to his left and just took it off a bit and pushed on, and won comfortably by plus a bike length.
So now the 168 riders that remained in the Giro d'Italia can finally rest. There is confirmation of the final overall standings, with Vincenzo Nibali taking victory from Rigoberto Urán of the Sky Pro Cycling Squad. 4 minutes and 43 seconds his advantage, and it seems so much more than that in some ways. Cadel Evans will be satisfied with third on the podium once more in a Grand Tour. Michele Scarponi, good result for him too. Carlos Betancourt though has really emerged into the limelight as one for the future, and a great performance for the AG Tour La Mondiale squad in getting 2 men into the top 10. Domenico Pozzovivo there in 10th. Niemitz also to the fore for Lampre. Great Giro for Maika et al. But on the final day, superb performance from Mark Cavendish, who I'm told is from Laxey on the Isle of Man, not Douglas. So thanks to Cy O'Shea for that. And it just seems as if he has another gear if he wanted, as he went to the line with Modolo. Modolo stayed with him, well, he got the jump on him really, and stayed with him all the way, and then just able to power clear in those last 25 metres.
That was a fantastic finish there by Mark Cavendish as he powered his way across the line. We will of course have the presentation of all the classifications. So
Cavendish quick to celebrate with his teams, quick to thank and express his appreciation to his teams. Matteo Trentin sets it up perfectly for him, as did the rest of his squad. 8 Omega Pharma Quick-Step riders made it to Brescia, and all of them can take, and indeed the one that didn't, Gert Stegemans, can take considerable pleasure from the performances of Mark Cavendish in this race.
Well, it's
considerable pride too.
It's when you have a rider like Cavendish, when you do the work, you know, he wins out of 9 times, he can win 9 times. It's just amazing. And when you have a guy like that, the riders, you know, will commit themselves that much more, and just they will have a big morale for the sprint. And we see that today. They control the situation real well. Cavendish in the sprint, you know, never really panicked. Modulo took up the sprint a little bit earlier. Cavendish looked across to him, and then, you know, started his sprint as well, and was always pulling away from him. And it proves again that Cavendish in the final 150 metres, he has that extra gear, as you say.
Yeah, he has the endurance to do a 300-metre sprint if he has to, and he has the kick to get the jump in the first place. He has it all perfectly. There's further confirmation of the overall standings. It's been a successful Giro d'Italia for the Sky Pro Cycling team. Not the way they would have imagined it panning out. Rigoberto Urán on the podium in second place. Bradley Wiggins, unfortunately, having to retire sick. Niemiec has enhanced his reputation, came to Grand Tour racing late for the Lamprey squad. That's 2 in the top 6 for them. And yeah, Dinshausti too has been up and down the order a bit. Had a day in pink, had a stage victory, of course, 1 of 4 for the Movistar team. And Dinshausti has enhanced his reputation, and well, if it wasn't for the time trials, could well have been a little bit further up. Let's get a little look at this once more. They kind of got the jump on Viviani, but didn't look as if he really had the speed.
No, again, we can see here when it's going at a real fast rate, Viviani had a teammate there, and then he moves across to the slipstream of Cavendish as Modulo takes it up on the left-hand side. But you can see Viviani was always losing ground, you know, 2 bike lengths, 3 bike lengths at the moment. I think at the finish it would have been 4. Modulo finishing it, you know, a bike length and a half. So in the straight-out sprint, that final 150 metres, Cavendish was the one who was always going that bit faster.
Yeah, question marks over Cavendish's fitness coming into the Giro, but perhaps his fitness was absolutely perfect, because he's absolutely motoring now.
Yes, I think he's really, you know, got better as this race went on. In the first days, struggled a bit more, and we see that on the climbs where he suffered in the earlier part of the race. But second week in the race, he had better condition, was getting all the climbs that better, and I think, you know, really finishing strongly and coming into the very end of a 3-week tour in real good shape. You know, that sprint today, and to get through the mountains the last couple of days as a sprinter, it's always a big battle, but proves that he's lost nothing. He hasn't lost any of his power, and not suffering from fatigue too much, because that sprint today, a fabulous win once again.
Well, towards the back of the bunch, but very much the overall winner, Vincenzo Nibali, is able to celebrate with his teammates alongside. And how do we assess this victory for Vincenzo Nibali? Where is he in the amongst the best riders of his generation?
Well, I think he's becoming a real contender for big tours. Not that he wasn't in the past, but winning the Vuelta, now winning this Giro in real difficult conditions. Last year we see him in the Tour of France. He was the one who put Sky under pressure on a small number of occasions. So he's becoming a big tour rider, and I think for the Tour of France will be a target from the future.
So huge crowds at the finish line in Brescia have witnessed a tremendous afternoon of bike racing, and the conclusion to a tremendous Giro d'Italia. So much talk, of course, that you know, there was a lot of talk about the weather affecting the race and perhaps making it a less exciting race than it should have been. But the weather also made it epic, didn't it? You know, it made it really difficult, a really difficult endurance test for the riders, and it really is difficult for us to fully convey how strength-sappingly cold it was, how the cold will have got into their bones, and it really will have sapped any motivation for the riders. And just to make it through will have been it was a tough one for them.
Yes, well, to survive this Giro, and to survive it for the general classification, the men up on top, you have to be really in top shape, and Nibali proved that all the way. If we had all the big mountain stages, I think Nibali would be much further ahead in time. We did see him yesterday on that real difficult, horrible conditions. You know, he pulled away from all the other favourites, and finishing 4 minutes and 43 seconds ahead of the second man. I think it could have been 8 minutes if we had his big mountain top finishes.
It's a jersey you've been fighting for 2 years now, came so close last year. What does it mean this year to get the victory in the competition?
So happy, really couldn't have been like closer. I came around the last day. Everyone knew I was going to go the intermediate. You know, I'm lucky. You know, it was a peloton of gentlemen here. They were content to let me fight for the points. You know, Nibali could have fought for it. He was content with the Maglia Rosa, and I'm lucky there. The team rode hard all day. Did 2 intermediate sprints, and then because they changed the distance at the beginning of the stage, 10 came up. We didn't know what lap we were sprinting for. It was 3 times when we got to the final. We sprinted for the second intermediate. It's a little bit like that, but then we took control again. It was a windy circuit, so the guys used up the energy. Cannondale came quick on us, and but they didn't panic. Matteo didn't panic. He waited behind Elia Viviani, and he went at just the right time. Headwind finish. When he went Modelo had gone, he'd gone too early, so I kind of just went at 89% and just picked it up through the thing, you know, and I'm really happy with the win there.
5 stage wins as well, so with the points jersey, easily your most successful Giro d'Italia. You feel better than ever as a rider?
Yeah, I really do. I've had good form all year. I trained really well in the winter. I'm settling really well at Mega Farm Quickstep, contrary to what you'll see on cycling internet sites and that, but no, I'm really happy, and especially this group here. We've come here. It's a Grand Tour group, first Grand Tour group. We've bonded so well here. We've got great morale, and that shows in the results. Everybody goes to the legs, can't go anymore. And, all you can do when that happens is win.
Congratulations, Mark. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks very much.
All you can do when that happens is win. It all came together perfectly for Mark Cavendish. He's just got happier and happier as this race has gone on. It's interesting in his assessment. He said that he thought Modelo had gone a little bit early, and he just went to 80-90%. Modelo was at about 120% at that point. Mark Cavendish is thrilled to celebrate with Matteo Trentin, his last lead-out man, but all of the Omega Pharma Quick Steps have done a wonderful job for him today. So Cavendish gets the final stage, Nibali gets the overall win. Vincenzo Nibali has taken the overall victory to go with his Vuelta a España win in 2010. He was 3rd in Giro d'Italia in 2010, 2nd in the Giro in 2011, didn't compete last year, and wins it this year. So it's 3rd, 2nd, 1st in appearances at the Giro. 3rd, of course, in the Tour de France last year. And there's so much talk, Sean, that Vuelta's in his programme, but should he switch to the Tour?
No, I don't think there's any question about switching for the Tour. The programme has been worked out many months ago at the end of last year, and Giro was the one, I think, the big objective in the earlier part of the season, plus some of the other earlier season races, but for big tours, and then the Vuelta later in the year. And we can see for the reason the Vuelta is good as well, World Championships at the very end of season in Italy, very difficult circuit. I think he also has an eye on that. He feels that he can do a real good performance, and I don't think the Tour of France will have to wait a bit more to see him there. But with his performances in Giro, Vuelta, he's definitely becoming a Tour contender, and he has finished 3rd, so he is there. He just have to get it right, and I think his time trialling has improved. His mountain climbing has been magnificent in this race, so it will be interesting in another year, the Tour of France. I think that will be his main objective, to try and win that one.
Would 3 weeks in the Vuelta be of benefit to him then going to the World Championships in Florence?
Yes, I think when you do the early season, which he has been doing, like he's won Torino Adriatico, he's won Trentino, he was 3rd in Milan Sanremo, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been up there in the early season a lot, and winning this one now, he's going to take it a bit easy, then build up again for the end of season, Vuelta, World Championships, which is going to be a very important one, and that's the way the season is planned out, and I don't see any change in that, because they've won this Giro. I doubt if there'll be any change at all.
What about some of the other riders in the top 10? Okay. So Mark Cavendish is the winner today, and all the riders in party mode. Little issue for Cavendish early on in the stage, but nothing to worry about too much. Paolini and Uran. Uran doesn't go for the big smiles, does he? I was going to say, actually, Rigoberto Uran has really enhanced his reputation as well. A man probably on the move next season, could well be a new team for him. But Rigoberto Uran, wherever he goes, he's going to be a Grand Tour contender. Little action early on. A couple of Vacansoleil riders decided to show the jersey at the front of the peloton, but it was the Astanas that had the honour of leading into Brescia and then handed that over to Stefano Garzelli. And then when the action got going properly, it was Mark Cavendish and the Amiga Pharma Quick-Step team that got organised. Vincenzo Nibali staying out of the main action, staying safe towards the back of the main bunch, as Cavendish, having taken those two intermediate sprints, already secure in the points classification, got down to the serious business of organising a 5th stage win. What a fantastic performance. This was not a Giro for sprinters. Every time he got to the finish in the front group, Mark Cavendish managed to convert into a victory. Superb effort once more from Mark Cavendish, who takes victory on the final stage. 21 stages, well, 20 days of racing, and this was stage 21. It's been a great 3 weeks for Vincenzo Nibali. It's been a great 3 weeks for Mark Cavendish. And the sun shines on Brescia at the end of 3 great weeks of racing.
Vincenzo, your first ever victory at the Giro d'Italia. How does it feel?
Grazie, sono veramente molto contento. È stato oggi un bagno di folla di gente per 200 km. È stato veramente
It was such a great crowd. It was a lot of joy.
Sono veramente emozionato e bellissimo.
And your team, they've been very
I'm really very emotional. I'm very moved. It's beautiful.
Ma io penso che tutta la squadra è stata molto forte e veramente abbiamo fatto un grande lavoro in questo Giro d'Italia.
The whole team was very strong. They've done a great job all along.
Di un sogno.
Beautiful day for me.
And today is really a beautiful day for me. For Vincenzo Nibali, the first Giro d'Italia success for him. First of many, you would suggest. It's certainly he'll be a contender for many years to come if he maintains this kind of form in the absolute prime of his life. Of course, 28 years of age and coming into top stage race condition in his career. And now has that victory from the Vuelta, the victory from Giro d'Italia. Tour de France not an objective this year, but that will come. So, wonderful 3 weeks. Sean, quick summing up, how would you assess it?
Well, it's an exciting Giro again. Unfortunately, the weather conditions, some of the big stages, the real big climbs weren't contested, but always, and a lot of the classmen fighting out to the very end. Young classification, the points classification, and a real good race, as a Giro always is.
It's been a superb Giro d'Italia for Mark Cavendish with his 5-stage victories. Wonderful success too for Vincenzo Nibali and plenty of other riders that have enhanced their reputations. I've very much enjoyed bringing it to you. But that's it for after 3 weeks of Giro d'Italia from myself and from Sean.